How did Daenerys hatch the dragon eggs? I mean, it was obviously magic, but those eggs had been stoned for perhaps hundreds of years, and Targaryens had been trying to hatch dragon eggs for decades with no success. So why did they hatch then? Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to Deep Geek. On this channel we dive deep into the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, as well as The Lord of the Rings and The Witcher. Welcome. When Dany's dragon eggs hatched deep in the Dothraki Sea, it was one of the most momentous moments in the history of the whole world of Ice and Fire. Momentous and completely unexpected. Everyone thought that dragons were gone for good. Then, as the very last sentence of A Game of Thrones says, for the first time in hundreds of years, the night came alive with the music of dragons. Now, this was written before George R.R. Martin had fully nailed down his Targaryen and dragon history, so we know now that technically it was only for the first time in 146 years, not centuries plural, but you get the point. Dragons had disappeared and were believed gone for good, but now they were back. But why, or how? What made these particular dragon eggs hatch then? We know of countless attempts by Targaryens to hatch dragon eggs in the previous decades. We know that Aegon III, Baelor, Aegon V, and Aerys II all tried in various ways, for example. What did Dany do that was so different, and did she even mean to do it? Well, when you read Dany's chapters in Book 1 carefully, you'll find that these eggs, and particularly the one that will hatch Drogon, connect with Dany straight away, and the clues build about what will happen and how. And as we pick up these clues, so she starts to get an understanding of what she must do. Which is all to say that, yes, she did come to an understanding of how she could hatch those eggs, and put it into practice at the end of the book. So let's break this down. When she first sees those eggs, when Illyrio gives them to her as a wedding gift, and before she even knows what they are, she thinks they are the most beautiful things she has ever seen. An instant connection, though Illyrio is quick to tell her that they are now just stone. Then she has a dream of a black and scarlet dragon, which seems to give her renewed strength in some way, and when she touches the black and scarlet egg, we read, she touched one, the largest of the three, running her hand lightly over the shell. Black and scarlet, she thought, like the dragon in my dream. The stone felt strangely warm beneath her fingers, or was she still dreaming? She pulled her hand back nervously. She still seems to be a little in denial of this next time when this happens. As she let the door flap close behind her, Dany saw a finger of dusty red light reach out to touch her dragon's eggs across the tent. For an instant, 1,000 droplets of scarlet flame swam before her eyes. She blinked and they were gone. Stone, she told herself. They are only stone. Even Illyrio said so. The dragons are all dead. She put her palm against the black egg, fingers spread gently across the curve of the shell. The stone was warm, almost hot. The sun, Dany whispered. The sun warmed them as they rode. The dragon eggs are starting to warm up, and we're getting some fire imagery. Then we learn that she had taken to holding them for comfort. She liked to hold them. They were so beautiful, and sometimes just being close to them made her feel stronger, braver, as if somehow she were drawing strength from the stone dragons locked inside. She was lying there holding the egg when she felt the child move within her, as if he were reaching out, brother to brother, blood to blood. She's now starting to think of dragons locked inside those eggs, not just stone eggs. And it's easily missed, but she is there holding the egg wrapped in a cloak with Viserys' blood on it. She had struck him with a belt of bronze medallions moments earlier, and his blood had splattered onto it. So we now have the idea of blood helping wake the dragons as well. Next, we have that assassination attempt on Dany's life with the wine merchant. Her response is to try to hatch those eggs. And it's made very clear that this is something instinctive in her. She knows instinctively that she needs fire, so she gets Ser Jorah to light the brazier and then leave. Was it madness that seized her then, born of fear, or some strange wisdom buried in her blood? Dany could not have said. When the coals were afire, Dany sent Ser Jorah from her. She had to be alone to do what she must do. This is madness, she told herself as she lifted the black and scarlet egg from the velvet. It will only crack and burn, and it's so beautiful. Ser Jorah will call me a fool if I ruin it. And yet... Cradling the egg with both hands, she carried it to the fire and pushed it down amongst the burning coals. The black scales seemed to glow as they drank the heat. Flames licked against the stone with small red tongues. Dany placed the other 2 eggs besides the black one in the fire. As she stepped back from the brazier, the breath trembled in her throat. She watched until the coals had turned to ashes. Clearly that attempt didn't work, but we're now building up a picture. Dany senses there are dragons locked in there, wanting to come out, whatever everyone else thinks. The eggs are getting ready, becoming hotter to the touch. Blood seems to rouse them. She instinctively knows they will need a fire to hatch, but that simple brazier wasn't enough. She needs a bigger fire, or something else to add into the mix, or both. And through it all, we start to see a repeated refrain. Over several chapters, we see Viserys tell her that she doesn't want to wake the dragon, does she? Then she has a fever dream connected with her going into that tent with the dancing shadows, with the blood magic, and that phrase is repeated again and again, but shortened and shortened again, until the meaning of it changes completely. You don't want to wake the dragon, do you? Then don't want to wake the dragon. Then want to wake the dragon. Wake the dragon. Wake the dragon. Wake the dragon. When she awakes, it is with a burning feeling that she must do something. Wake the dragon, but she can't remember what. One of the tragedies amidst all of this is that at that time she loses her unborn child Rhaego, whose lifeless body, incidentally, was apparently born looking very dragony. Another is what happened to Khal Drogo, for whom all that dark blood magic was performed. But Dany's first thought when she awakes is not for her child or for her husband, but for a dragon egg. And when she gets one, we read, her fingers trailed lightly across the surface of the shell, tracing the wisps of gold, and deep in the stone she felt something twist and stretch in response. It did not frighten her. All her fear was gone, burned away. It's the dragon inside, waking. There's a curious moment when she gets Ser Jorah to touch the dragon eggs. To him, they are still as cold as stone. Clearly whatever is going on here is just for her. No one else feels the dragon stirring, or even thinks the eggs have changed temperature. After which time, she seems to have a sense of cool purpose, and also foresight. She builds a pyre for Khal Drogo, and Jorah quickly understands that she intends to be a part of it herself. He begs her not to kill herself, but she brushes it aside. Yes, she means to go into the fire, but no, she does not expect to die. Something that is backed up by her words to the others there, telling them that they will be her Khalasar, binding her blood riders to herself, not the actions of someone who thinks they will die that night. Which must obviously have sounded crazy to everyone else. However hot they might like their baths, Targaryens are not immune to fire. Then she places the dragon eggs in the pyre. Again, Jorah protests that they could be sold for a lot of money, but she simply states that they weren't given to her so she could sell them. Mirri Maz Duur, presumably guessing that she was trying to hatch the eggs, spits out that she is mad. But then we get this exchange as Dany adds her to the pyre. Before it, Mirri Maz Duur seemed unconcerned that the eggs might actually hatch. Then after it, well, let's see. I thank you, Mirri Maz Duur, she said, for the lessons you have taught me. You will not hear me scream, Mirri responded, as the oil dripped from her hair and soaked her clothing. I will, Dany said, but it is not your screams I want, only your life. I remember what you told me. Only death can pay for life. Mirri Maz Duur opened her mouth but made no reply. As she stepped away, Dany saw that the contempt was gone from the Magi's flat black eyes. In its place was something that might have been fear. Mirri Maz Duur is afraid. For her life, certainly, but also because she has realised that Dany now knows what she needs in order to make the magic work. Not just fire, but a blood sacrifice. If we need any more proof of this, Dany herself thinks this moments later. She had sensed the truth of it long ago, Dany thought as she took a step closer to the conflagration, but the brazier had not been hot enough. The flames writhed before her like the women who had danced at her wedding, whirling and singing and spinning their yellow and orange and crimson veils, fearsome to behold, yet lovely, so lovely, alive with heat. Dany opened her arms to them, her skin flushed and glowing. This is a wedding too, she thought. Mirri Maz Dur had fallen silent. The god's wife thought her a child. But children grow, and children learn. So Dany sensed that fire would be needed, but now had learned that blood sacrifice would also be needed. We should probably clarify that although this might seem pretty obvious to us, with the benefit of knowing a bit of Targaryen history, it wasn't to Dany. This knowledge had been long lost to her family. No dragons hatched for generations, books of knowledge about them systematically burned by Baelor the Blessed, and the relevant books she did have, she hadn't read, according to George R.R. Martin. The only other Targaryen she'd ever known was Viserys, who wasn't exactly the wise and learned type himself. Oh, and in the books, she's still only 14 at this point, and had spent most of her life on the road. So, all things considered, she really was starting from a very low base of dragon lore knowledge. It appears that at Dothraki Carl's funerals, you wait for the first star to shine before lighting the funeral pyre, so that the Carl can ascend to their place among the stars. And this time the first star visible is the red comet we know so well, which she, and probably everyone else, took as a strong sign. So that seems to be the magical mix. Some intentionality on Dany's part, lots of fire, blood sacrifice, and the red comet overhead. As a couple of quick asides here, the Red Comet clearly does have Azor Ahai and Prince That Was Promised implications. In prophecy, a red comet appears to herald Azor Ahai reborn, and as well as figuratively being reborn in this moment herself, she is also literally bringing dragons to life from stone, which is another part of the prophecy. I did a couple of other videos on all that if you're interested. Second, 3 dragons are hatched here, which seems to match the 3 bodies on the pyre. Khal Drogo, his horse, a hugely important thing in Dothraki culture, and Mirri Maz Dur, a powerful magic user. Or perhaps you could substitute Rhaego's death for the horses. Either way, it seems that there is very much a life for each death. But if it is that simple to hatch Dany's dragon eggs, the fire, the sacrifices and so on, why can't anyone else do it? We read of Aegon V that the last years of Aegon's reign were consumed by a search for ancient lore about the dragon breeding of Valyria, and it was said that Aegon commissioned journeys to places as far away as Asshai by the Shadow, with the hopes of finding texts and knowledge that had not been preserved in Westeros. So he spared no expense in looking for knowledge about how to hatch dragon eggs, and then put all of that knowledge into an attempt to hatch some dragon eggs, and that ended in the spectacular failure and tragedy at Summerhall. How could a 14-year-old Dany, in the middle of the Dothraki Sea, have figured out something that he didn't, with all those resources of the Seven Kingdoms at his disposal? I think the answer is that they probably did roughly the same thing. Certainly there was fire and many people died at Summerhall, but the moment was not right. There was something else going on for Dany, which sounds a bit vague, but it's sort of what George R.R. Martin has said on the subject. He says, "The birth of Dany's dragons was unique, magical, wondrous, a miracle. She is called the Unburnt because she walked into the flames and lived." We should acknowledge an important story point here then. Even if there are other dragon eggs out there somewhere, and there almost certainly are, Euron claims to have one, the Mad King had some just a couple of decades earlier, and so on. People couldn't just replicate this moment and expect dragons to emerge, because this moment was unique. It was a miracle. In other words, don't expect more dragons hatching later in the story. But more broadly, George R.R. Martin here gives us the shape of what is going on. Valyrian magic always involves fire and blood. Most magic also seems to involve some intentionality, training, or skill. You can't just light a fire, sacrifice something, and expect some random magic to occur. And we know that a red comet has a lot of magical symbolism, but George R.R. Martin doesn't give us an exact formula about how this magic happened at this particular time. He wants to keep the mystery. This is typical for George R.R. Martin. He doesn't want to tell us exactly why and how magic works, and he won't. He's explained his reasoning many times in different interviews, but here's a good example. "It seems to me that if you have a magical system, you don't have magic. You have fake science. If every time you put out the eye of a newt and the wing of a bat or something and a dead man's toenail in a pot, you get the same thing, that's fake science. It's something anyone can learn and they can do it. Real magic, We don't have real magic, but what passed for magic in the real world was unpredictable. They didn't know. Well, you draw this on the floor and you'll get a demon from hell, but that demon from hell shows up and, oh, you drew it wrong. I'm going to eat you now. Things like that. Magic should be dangerous. It should be unpredictable. It should be something we don't understand. It's not just fake science. At least, that's the way I handle it. Which leaves us with this. Dany hatching those dragon eggs was no accident. She very much meant to do it, and we see her grow into that realization throughout the first book. Some of what she needed to do, she got by Targaryen instinct. Some she learned by observing what Mirri Maz Dur had done, and some, like the red comet being the first star in the sky, were fate or luck or whatever you want to call it. Surely there was some element, too, of the dragons wanting to hatch, the time being right, or her starting to form a bond with them. But the exact mix of things that made it work is a mystery, and not replicable, because that moment was unique, magical, wondrous, and a miracle. If you'd like to see more videos like this, diving into the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, there's a playlist appearing now on the left of your screen. Or to support this channel, thank you. There's a link to my Patreon page on the right of your screen. Thanks for watching. That's all for this time. I'll see you again soon.